In this video, we're going to go over all the differences between the M5 Pro MacBook Pro and the standard M5 MacBook Pro. We're going to talk about the ports, the chips, and the real-world performance you can expect to get out of both of these computers. Before we go any further, I want to give a huge shout out to B&H for loaning me both of these to test and compare so I can help you decide which computer you need. At first glance, these may look identical. They have the same 14-inch body size, but on the inside, the M5 Pro has two fans and the M5 has a single fan, which means the M5 can actually run into throttling a little bit faster. The M5 has Thunderbolt 4 ports on it, which top out at 40 gigabits a second of bandwidth. The M5 Pro has Thunderbolt 5 ports, which starts with 80 gigabits a second and is actually boosted to 120 gigabits a second because it reserves some bandwidth for external displays, which means this is going to be a better option if you want to use it with the latest and greatest docking stations that can keep more high-resolution displays and fast peripherals plugged into them. The M5 has a 10-core CPU and a 10-core GPU. The M5 Pro starts with a 15-core CPU and the 16-core GPU, but you can actually spend an extra $200 on it to get the full unbinned chip that has extra CPU and GPU cores. Also, the M5 Pro doubles the bandwidth of the M5 from 153 gigabytes a second of memory bandwidth on the M5 all the way up to 307 gigabytes a second of memory bandwidth on the M5 Pro. Memory bandwidth is how fast the RAM is able to talk to the processor. Let's talk about the SSD and the RAM that comes with both of these computers. With the M5, it now starts with a 1 terabyte SSD, 16 gigabytes of RAM, and you can always upgrade the RAM and the SSD on this if you want to spend some more money. And with the M5 Pro, this one starts with 24 gigabytes of RAM and the same 1 terabyte SSD. Also, the M5 Pro is getting the super fast 11,500 megabyte a second read and write speed on it, which is amazing. Other than the chips, the fans, and the ports, the hardware is all the same. Both of these have the excellent sounding speakers on them, great built-in microphones, and the displays on both of these are really nice. With the M5 chip, you actually can't get it in a 16-inch model, but with the M5 Pro, you can spend a little bit more money if you want to get it in the 16-inch size, which may be handy for you if you really value screen real estate. Let's talk about performance. For day-to-day use, so just browsing the web, answering emails, most standard applications, these are going to feel very identical. And it's really when you get into more creative workflows and intensive workflows where you're rendering and exporting things for a longer period of time, that's when you're going to notice the extra performance out of the M5 Pro, partially due to the dual fans, but also just because of the much more powerful chip. I did a ton of tests on these computers, and you can see my whole spreadsheet of tests at adamtalks.tech/Mac tests. The first test I wanted to do was with local AI models, so I put Diffusion B on both of these, and generating a cat eating nachos while working on a laptop took 12.36 seconds on the M5. It was down to 8.9 seconds on the M5 Pro, so really just a little bit faster. Next, I put LM Studio and Gemma 3.4B on both of these, and the time to first token on these, I was getting kind of inconsistent results depending on the test I did. It was taking about 0.24 seconds for one test on both of these. On another test, it took 1.79 seconds on the M5, and it took 0.85 seconds on the M5 Pro. With the M5, I was generating 48 tokens a second, and I was hitting about 97 tokens a second with the M5 Pro chip. Next, I put Xcode on both of these, and I ran the Xcode Benchmark. It took 160 seconds on the M5 MacBook Pro. It was down to 104 seconds on the M5 Pro MacBook Pro. Running Blender on both of these worked really well, and the tests were just a little bit faster with the M5 Pro. So doing the easy classroom scene took 29.76 seconds on the M5, and it was down to 19.47 seconds on the M5 Pro. On Barbershop, it was 3 minutes and 30 seconds on the M5, 3 minutes and 11 seconds on the M5 Pro. With Logic Pro, the gap was huge though. With the M5 MacBook Pro, I was only able to run 130 MIDI tracks at the same time. With the M5 Pro, this went all the way up to 340 MIDI tracks at the same time. Next, I wanted to try a couple of offline bounces running this project, and for a 64-track bounce, it took 30 seconds on the M5, and it was down to 13 seconds on the M5 Pro. And for a 512-track bounce, it took 3 minutes and 51 seconds on the M5, and it was down to 1 minute and 35 seconds on the M5 Pro. Next, I put Final Cut Pro on both of these, and running the magnetic mask for an 18-second clip was very close. It took 26 seconds on the M5, down to 23 seconds on the M5 Pro. But for a 3-minute 4K video export, it took 1 minute and 31 seconds on the M5, and again, very close at 1 minute and 20 seconds on the M5 Pro. Next, I wanted to do a longer export, and I decided to export a 30-minute 4K project. It took 14 minutes and 53 seconds on the M5, and it went down to 12 minutes and 40 seconds on the M5 Pro. For my test, if you really want to get much faster video exporting speed, you need to go all the way up to the M5 Max to get a real improvement on it. Next, I wanted to try some non-Apple optimized software, so I put Lightroom Classic on both of these, and I imported 500 raw photos and tried a couple of exports. So exporting the raw photos down to JPEGs. For 50 photos, it took 15 seconds on the M5, 7.23 seconds on the M5 Pro. For 200 photos, it took 59 seconds on the M5, and it took 27.96 seconds on the M5 Pro. Then for 500 photos, it took 2 minutes and 23 seconds on the M5 down to 1 minute and 7 seconds on the M5 Pro. So be sure to check out my website for my full list of all the benchmarks, including Geekbench 6, Geekbench AI, and Cinebench scores. On Geekbench 6, the CPU scores were pretty close, and on the multi-core, there was definitely a healthy boost to the M5 Pro. On the Metal GPU scores, I was getting about 1.5 times the performance on the M5 Pro over the M5. And on Geekbench AI, I also saw that single scores were pretty close on the CPU. But on the GPU, I did see a light increase on the performance with Geekbench AI as well. I also did the Cinebench 2026 benchmark on both of these. I was getting about 1.8 times GPU performance on the M5 Pro over the M5 Max. So if you're trying to decide between the two of these, it costs about $1,700 for the M5 and $2,200 for the M5 Pro. And right now, B&H is actually running a sale where you can get the M5 Pro for about $1,950, which is a really good deal on it. And what I like about the M5 Pro is you get double the bandwidth, you get the extra RAM, which means multitasking is going to be better on it. You get Thunderbolt 5 ports, which means you can keep faster external SSDs plugged in, and you can keep more displays plugged into it. And it's also able to handle more external displays even without a docking station. Also, every single application we tested was faster on the M5 Pro, but it definitely wasn't double the speed. But I really do think it's worth $500 more to get the extra fan, to get the Thunderbolt 5 ports, to get the extra memory bandwidth, and the extra RAM. To me, that makes it a really great buy. I would say you can still get the M5 MacBook Pro if you want to get the cheapest possible option to get a MacBook Pro, because this does have an improved screen and better speakers than the MacBook Air, and it also has better performance than the MacBook Air because this actually has a fan on it. But I would say most people who are going to be running lots of creative applications should spend a little bit of extra money to get the M5 Pro, because this offers the best utility per dollar across the MacBook lineup, because you don't have to go spending an extra $1,400 or more to upgrade to get a max chip to get better speeds than you're going to get with this stock M5 MacBook Pro. You get faster speeds on every single application test we did, more RAM, and better ports. So to me, the extra $500 is going to give you the wiggle room to keep the M5 Pro MacBook Pro for a long period of time. But what do you think? Is the M5 enough for you, or would you rather spend a little bit of extra money for all the features we talked about with the M5 Pro? Let me know in the comments below what you think, and be sure to check B&H for the best current possible prices on these computers. If you need help buying a computer, visit my website, adamtalks.tech/Mac, where I'm happy to give you personalized buying advice.